That's happened a few times too. It's great to see some familiar faces and some names joining us. Really, really pleased to have everyone with us. Natasha, would you take the feature, the waiting room feature off so folks can come in if they're a little late joining? And then just co-host Keaw'e and I, and we should be fine. Great. Well, let's go ahead and get started. I think just about everybody is getting settled in. We may have a few participants joining momentarily, but I just want to welcome everyone to our virtual native storytelling hour. I will say good morning or good afternoon, depending on where this broadcast finds you. I am again honored to be here today with all of you and want to thank you for joining us for our ongoing virtual native storytelling series. As some of you may know, my name is Steve Steiny. I am one of the program managers here at the National American Indian Alaska Native Addiction Technology Transfer Center. We're funded by SAMHSA. And I want to add that the content of today's broadcast is created by the presenter and does not represent the views of SAMHSA, HHS, or the National American Indian Alaska Native HTC. I wanted to also mention that our next storytelling event will be held on Tuesday, May 11th at 2 p.m. Central. So if you have an opportunity to join us and register for that event, we would love to see you. We have a very special Navajo storyteller, Robert Begay, who will be joining us for May's virtual native storytelling hour. So hope you can join us. A couple of other things to mention. I will be posting in the chat box at the end of today's broadcast a link to a short survey. And then I'll also be posting a link to a short satisfaction survey. If you don't have a chance to fill those out at the end of the broadcast today, that's fine. We'll reach out to you via email post-event to give you another chance to help us get some feedback from you. So again, I want to welcome you all to the virtual native storytelling hour. Our guest storyteller today is Keaw'e Bone. This event is brought to you by the National American Indian Alaska Native HTC, which is located at the University of Iowa. We are part of a larger national ATTC network throughout the country. And again, this project is supported by SAMHSA, and the content is developed by the presenter. So it does not represent the opinions of SAMHSA. Following today's event, as I mentioned, we will send out a follow-up email, which will include links to the presentation and a recording of this event if you're interested in seeing this or sharing this with someone who was not able to be here with us today. There are no CEUs available for today's broadcast, but again, we appreciate any feedback you can give us in the surveys. Survey is very important for our center and our funders to ensure that our events are beneficial to those who attend. Your participation in these is voluntary, but we do really appreciate you taking just a few minutes to skip or to complete this survey. You can skip any questions that you do not want to answer, and your responses, of course, will be kept confidential and cannot be linked to you in any way. If you have any questions about this, please reach out to myself or Natasha Peterson here at the Native Center for Behavioral Health, and we'd be happy to respond to any questions. I want to take a few moments before I introduce our storyteller to just note that although we're gathered here today virtually, we do want to take time to acknowledge the land and pay respect to the indigenous nations whose homelands were forcibly taken and inhabited. Please take a moment to read this land acknowledgement, which was created by 3 members of our team, Ella and Keely Driscoll and Sean Bear. Thank you. And without further ado, I am very honored to introduce Mr. Keaw'e Bone, our featured storyteller for today's event. Mr. Bone has been facilitating our sessions now for the past 3 months, and today we'll be telling his fourth and final story with our group in this series. Today's story is the flute story. So I will turn the floor over to Mr. Keaw'e Bone. He does hold a bachelor's degree in psychology with an interdisciplinary minor in Cherokee studies. He's currently practicing as a qualified mental health professional, working with the community of the Eastern Band of Cherokee Indians. He has held other job titles as well, such as child care worker, cultural coordinator, targeted case manager, and storyteller, of course. He is a EBCI member with lineage from Lakota Nation, as well as Hawaiian ancestry. Keaw'e is the youngest storyteller in his tribe within 6 generations. Really happy to have him here. And with that, I will relinquish the floor to Keaw'e. Thank you.
Thank you, Steve. I was supposed to come on last week for you guys and tell you the story of the first flute. But I had some emergencies happen and I had to go into the hospital. My system became septic and they tell me I was really close to the other world. But it was seen fit that I could stay here. And so I'm trying to use whatever comes after that as a good measure for my life and things that I do in the moment. And for now, this is something that is very important for me to do. And I appreciate the ability to be here and the opportunity that is given to me to allow me to be in front of you, allow me to speak. So I appreciate all of you for allowing me to be here, allowing me to come back, even though I had missed my slots before. I appreciate you for giving me this opportunity and for all of you sharing your time with me today. And I'm grateful and honored to be in front of you. And if I don't get through, or if we get through with this one and I'm not feeling too bad, I would like to maybe tell another story if we have time. But if I need to take a break for breaths, I hope that you guys will all be here with me for that and not judge me accordingly. Or maybe you do, but I appreciate your understanding if you can give it or lean it to me in this moments. Okay. So a long, long time ago, not so long that we can't remember, the stories will not be told, but long enough to understand that some time has passed. We understand that there was a boy, and this boy, he did not have great strength, physical strength. He did not have such a beautiful face, and he did not know how to talk to people in a very good way. This young boy had no beautiful voice to share with anyone. He was just a boy. And this boy had seen in his village that there was a beautiful woman. She was so beautiful that she had caught this young boy's eyes and every eyes of every boy in the village. She was the most beautiful girl of the village. And this was a problem for this boy because he knew that he would not have the type of attention grabbing things that one might need to be able to capture her eyes for him. So he went to his mother and he said, I have a problem. And he told her all of these things. And as they spoke, she said, son, I don't know if I have the answers to give you for what you're looking for. And I wish I did. And I appreciate you coming to me because I'm a woman and I'm close to you. And I think that you're fantastic. I think she will too, but I don't know how to have her notice you. And so she urges him to go to the one with all the answers, one that they both share a belief in, Shkinethlama, our creator, one that's created all of us. And so this boy has a place, just like most of us may do, have a place to go and to pray, to be with ourselves, and to speak on these things that are bothering us or causing us affliction. We can ask for direction, we can ask for strength, and we can ask for guidance in a time where we may not have it. So this young boy goes to his space, and it's at the base of this tree where there's no one else around ever, he sees. And he goes there every morning before the sun rises. Creator, help me. And he continues on with this problem. Every day he does this. And he does not know that there's another occupant near him. But there is, and it is in the tree. There's a woodpecker. And every morning he wakes that woodpecker up. Creator, help me. Every morning, like clockwork, he comes to this tree and wakes this woodpecker up. And this woodpecker gets so upset every day. He has to hear this young boy's problems every single day. And it never changes. It's always the same. He hears this boy complain every single day. But one night, the woodpecker is awoken by whistling in the trees. And as this whistle is happening in the trees, this confuses the woodpecker of what it is. So he goes to go find out what this whistling in the trees is all about. And as he finds it, he finds there's a tree branch that's been hollowed out. Maybe it was rotten, but he hears this whistle. So he starts to peck at this tree branch to try to make it stop, and it gets more higher and higher pitched. And an idea pops into the woodpecker's mind to peck more holes and to wait for that young boy to come back. So when the wind blows, he will dance on the holes and make scary noises and scare him off so that he can have his tree back to normal. And so he does this. And when he is ready, he waits for that young boy. And like clockwork, that young boy comes back to the tree, sits down and says, Creator, help me. Same old problems, new day, nothing has changed. So the woodpecker goes out to that hollowed out branch and waits for that wind to start blowing. And as soon as it does, he starts dancing on those holes, making all of these really crazy noises. But as he's dancing, he dances so hard that that tree branch breaks from that tree, and that tree branch falls onto that boy, into the boy's lap. And all of the weird sounds have stopped. this young boy looks at this broken, hollowed out, old tree branch. And as he's looking at it, the wind blows again and it makes this high-pitched whistle. And he doesn't understand what it is, but he notices when he lifted his finger from one of the holes, it changed in pitch. So this young boy looked up and he said, "Keaw'e, thank you." Speaking to Creator, but the bird heard it. The woodpecker heard his thank you. So this young boy would continue to go out to this tree and he would blow into this hollowed out branch. He would make different sounds come out of it. Sometimes they were not very good. Sometimes they were very good. He started emulating the sounds that he had heard. And then he started mimicking the birds. And after he had mimicked the birds, simple notes, those notes turned into simple, pieces of music. And those pieces of music turned into songs and melodies. And he had gotten very comfortable with the songs that came out. And he had fancied himself a good player of this thing. And he thought to himself, with this, I will gain the attention from the most beautiful woman of our village. She will see me. And of course, they are not very old, but they are in the prime of their life, as you would say. So this young boy knew that in those days, you could catch a girl growing into a woman. You could catch her alone at one point in time in the day. And that was later on in the evening, just before bed, before everybody turned in for supper. And it was to gather more water for the day to come. And of course, he waited at the river, on the other side of the river bank, for her to come, because he knew where she would go. And so he waited, and he seen her coming just before the sun was to go down. And as he seen her, he thought that he could play, but the butterflies in his stomach were flapping so hard that they made him feel sick, and he could not play the first day. But he went back to his place, and he practiced a little bit more. And he came back the next day, and he did not have the butterflies in his stomach on this day. On this day, he played for this beautiful girl, the most beautiful song that was ever made in this entire world. He played for her, the most beautiful song ever made, especially on a flute. Now, I don't know what that song sounds like because I was not there, but I can play one of mine in its place, and hopefully it will be almost the same as you hearing him play it. Give me 1 second to get it out. Okay. when this young girl had heard this beautiful song, she looked up and she had seen this boy, and he had tucked that hollowed out branch, and he had tried to go away, and he had escaped her, he had eluded her for that day. And he had walked around a couple of days later, and she had seen him walking with this tree branch. So she went right up to him. He had captured her attention. And she went right up to him and she said, "Do you see here? What is that?" And this young boy, he takes that stick and he puts it in front of him in both hands, and he says, "I don't know what you call this thing that I have, but I do know the feeling that I have for you is the sound that comes out of this thing when I play it. So I call this thing that I have in my hands love." And he won that young girl's heart. That this is not just the story of the first flute. This is also the story of how we got running water, because all of the parents, the dads, got together after this thing had transpired between this young boy and this young girl, because all the boys started to go into the woods and hollow out tree branches and make their own flutes and their own melodies and songs. And they were starting to go play for their love interests. So all the dads got together and they found out if you put hollowed out logs end to end and put clay in between at the joints, you can take the river from where it is at to your home and never have to send your daughter around all those flute players. And this is the story of the first flute. Tell me what you guys think. Thank you.
Open the floor to comments or thoughts or feelings about this story. Thank you so much, Keaw'e. I enjoyed that. We're getting some great comments, Keaw'e, in the chat box. If anybody wants to give a little feedback or share anything, you can just unmute and feel free.
Hi, Steve. And hello, sir. Thank you so much for that wonderful story. I just wanted to thank you because you reminded me of when I was meeting my own wife, and I had to ask permission from her dad and her 5 brothers, and only one of them spoke English. So it was a challenge and a half to ask her for her hand in marriage. So thank you. And I really appreciate your efforts for being here. Gosh, you're amazing. And you've got a true gift, and that's so gracious of you to share it with all of us. Thank you so very much.
Thank you. That sounds like a situation and a half. I commend you for letting us in on that. That's hard. That's hard to come against. Thank you. I appreciate it.
Other thoughts or questions or comments for Keaw'e, or something maybe that made you think about in your own life, or some great comments in the chat. So feel free to express those verbally too.
I would add that I wanted to participate today to learn more about the oral tradition in Indigenous America. I am of Irish heritage, and I found a lot of similarities between the early Indigenous people and beliefs and traditions, as have happened here. And also in Ireland, storytelling was very integral to daily life. And so that's part of and this is sort of a life story that's likely a way of sort of passing on beliefs and understanding. So that part to me is just quite rich and fascinating, and I'm tremendously appreciative of this opportunity. So thank you very much.
I would agree with you. I've come across quite a bit of people from the Isles, Scotland and Ireland, and I've gotten to see that a lot of their stuff was very, very similar, even going into battle painted. That we had fought with the blue people and we were painted in red and black, and that our history shows that we've had a very, especially for my tribe, Cherokees, that we've had a big strong understanding of each other's culture, because it is so similar and it is different in the lessons, and maybe not in what we're learning, but how we're learning it, and what is taught amongst us, and what are values that we need to carry and keep throughout our daily life. And I appreciate you for being here and for stating that, because I never get to. So I appreciate you so much for saying these things. Thank you.
And there's still a lot of ongoing connection. Recently, the Irish, one of the sports teams, the one with the pole where they throw the ball, lacrosse, the Irish lacrosse team sacrificed their spot in the World Games to allow, I think, Navajo, the Navajo team, to participate, because they were the ones that originated it. And also there were donations during the Great Hunger in the late 1840s. Some of the native tribes sent money to the Irish during that time of famine. So yeah, there's a strong connection there over the years, which is
It's beautiful.
Again, I just want to, Keaw'e, we've got some great comments. I'll try and send you this copy of this chat so you can look these over.
Yes, sir.
When you have some more time after the broadcast. But,
Oh, I definitely will.
other comments or thoughts that anyone wants to share?
I wonder if Keaw'e could expand a little bit more on the types of symbolism that birds and other natural, living organisms, so to speak, convey in these narratives. And I wonder to what extent the story is about paying attention to all that's around us, right? And kind of the messages, if you will, that you get when you pay attention.
I could definitely do that. So for us, traditionally, having animals in place were a way of balance and learning how your environment is doing, and should be the same nowadays. Having those key figures like the woodpecker for us has been a form of guidance through our culture. It was a warbird, and it was taken, bits and pieces were taken with us to keep us protected and make us strong. But we would also listen to our natural world, our environment, for messages when we prayed. It was a way of understanding if we were on the right track or if we needed to turn back around, and having that understanding to do the things and to appreciate. Maybe when you set out today, you wanted to go do something, but if it was not to be done, to accept those things. Having the cultural understanding of going to a woman, which is in our culture a position of power, because we were matriarchal, matrilineal, so we listened to women. In politics, they would tell us when we went to war, and they would give us guidance throughout some of our ceremonial things, because we had, the clan mothers that would give the word for certain things to be done. And of course, the war woman and the beloved woman who was given this title late in life, but had worked her entire life to get that. And it was, giving everything that they had to become this thing, and they would be acknowledged by the tribe. That was the most giving person amongst all of us. Being able to understand that if you just need a way of addressing your needs, that you are not paying attention to everything around you that you're involved with. And so having this story understanding of going to someone, asking them, and then going to pray about these things, and being diligent in your way of going forward for something that in your heart you can't live without, and making things so in a way that is not you forcing someone else to do it, but having them have the understanding or noticing and having the choice to embark upon something that is a relationship, a reciprocal relationship, is very important and very integral for our way of life, and to going into the future with having the understanding that you are not the only person, and that you are a piece of all of these things around you. And for you to work, you must listen to them and take in stock of what it's telling you. But if you cannot interpret the message, or you are not willing to work for that message to come to you, then you will never receive what you are asking or you are praying for, that you want to receive. But animals and our environment and the lessons that come within all of these stories are very, very immersed. And I'm very excited that you had brought that up. It's one of the reasons why I really wanted these spaces for talking, is to talk about the hidden meanings or the understandings that encompass these stories. And if you can tell me if I didn't hit on the message that you were asking any further, if you could help me with what you're wanting to understand, or if I can speak on what our people believe in a little bit further, please let me know. But that was beautiful. Thank you.
Thank you. So maybe a quick last thing. Do you recommend, or is there a collection of stories that we people that are not of indigenous traditions can learn more about, stories that we can maybe read more or kind of think about more? Is there any book or any place where we can learn more about it?
Yes, there are. There's a book in particular that I really think has a lot of fascinating things, that has lots and lots of lessons. And of course, you won't have anyone to interpret them for you. But it's pretty obvious within the stories of what they're saying. It's James Mooney's Myths and Legends, Practices of the Cherokee. James Mooney. Some of those stories were taken by way of, I guess, lucrative means, and some others were obtained in ways that people were just giving him something to write down and he could walk away with. But it really captures at least some of the participants who are, cataloged within this work and this book, that will allow you to see some time or some kind of frame of mind that they were in and how they were taught. So it's still useful within some of those stories. I might avoid some stories in public, like Why the Mink Stinks, but others are very, very good. And some of them are influenced heavily by Christianity and some other things. But for the most part, a lot of those stories have some good lessons, really, really nice things to go about, if that helps at all.
Thank you.
I tried to put the link for that book. I found it. I found it, Keaw'e, online real quickly, but I probably put the long link in there.
Thank you, Steve.
It's out there. You can get it in paperback for a real affordable price.
Yes. So what do you think, Steve? Do you think I might need to tell another?
Well, I was asking you earlier how you were holding up. So if you're feeling like you have the energy for one more, we've got a little time. So that would be wonderful.
I think I can do that. Go. Yes. Okay. I think I've got enough time to tell this one. If not, we might have to extend it just a little. Okay. So a long, long, long time ago, before there were lawnmowers, there was a village. And this village was one that obtained most of its food by way of crops and, of course, game. But if you've ever worked the land, then you will understand sometimes crops don't come in on time and you have to wait for food. So you have to have a plan. But this was one of those times that a drought had come through and the crops had not come in. It was very difficult to find food. Everyone was very, very hungry and very weak. They had been waiting for food for quite some time. So they had told the person in charge, or someone's the chief, they would say, and the leader of the village, he had gotten the warriors up and he had said, we're all in a crisis and we need food. So if you will all please come hunting, we can bring that food back here so that all of our people will be good. We can all eat and wait for our food to come in when the rains come. So of course they agreed, and they had told their families they loved them. And they continued on their day's journey to the hunting grounds. Of course, when they got there, they were comparing kills and having fun because they were feeding people. And this was a good day because they were doing good things for each other. They were doing good things for all of their people. And so time started to slip and get away with them because they were having such a wonderful time that the sun started to go down upon them. And they knew back in those days, like we know now, in the daytime, good things and good people come out. You do good things. when the night time comes and the day is gone, you're supposed to be resting, because they used to say that that's when the bad things and bad people would come out. So the keenest warrior who led them alerted them all that they needed to be on their way. And so they thanked the kills for giving their lives so that theirs could continue. And they started on their way back. And as they did, the keenest warrior led them. Now the keenest warrior started to hear something off in the distance. So he stopped everyone and they said, "Do you still hear? Oh, what is it?" He said, "AKST, it's a god I don't know." As he was listening, the warriors become impatient hunters. And they said, "Come on now, it's getting dark. We need to get back home." So he shakes it off and they continue on their way. But as they go, they hit a high patch of tall buffalo grass. Now, like I said, we didn't have any lawnmowers back in the day. So this grass grew 2 to 3 heights the size of one man. It was razor sharp to the touch. So when you crossed in it, you had to be very careful, move very slowly. And as they were doing this, because if you don't, you'll get cut. It's razor sharp. And as they were doing this, the keenest warrior heard that same sound that he had heard before. So he stops everyone and they listen and they hear it too. It is the sound of a baby crying. So he says, "Well, we've got to go after it. We've got to make sure that baby's safe." And they said, "Well, its parents are probably close by." And he said, "Well, what if its parents aren't close by? What if that baby dies? I can't live with that on my conscience. Can you?" And they said, "Well, you don't even know if it's a baby." And he said, "Well, still, I wouldn't be able to live with myself if I did not check." And he said, "Where are we going?" And they said, "We can't go. We've got all this food. We need to get back and make sure we get back." And he said, "Well, I can't live with myself if I did not check. You keep my kill and I will go check if I'll be back if I am." And they said, "Well, we'll wait for you here." And he said, "Okay, if it is a baby, I'll come walking back. If not, I'll be running back." And they said, "Okay." And so as the keenest warrior goes off into the tall buffalo grass, and they can hear that baby's crying in the stillness and the darkness, the baby stops. There is no sound. And out of that stillness, all the warriors heard whatever it was getting closer to them. So the first warrior takes out his single ball war club and his side knife and readies himself for battle. The second warrior pulls out his spear, and if it gets to that man before him, he can throw it right through whatever it is it's going to be doing battle with that first man. And the third takes out his arrow and bow, notches it, and if it makes it past that first man and that spear, he is going to let that arrow fly, and he has another one to come with it. But out of the darkness and out of that grass comes the keenest warrior holding that baby. All the warriors go, "Oh, man, I almost got you." They said, "This is a great thing that you've done. We're going to tell everyone in the village, all the people, this wonderful thing that you've done. Everyone must know what what a wonderful person you are and how good you are to go out there and do these things. They're going to know who you are and what kind of man you are. So they take all the kills and the baby. They go back to the village. And as they had said, word travels fast in the village. And everyone knows of this keen warrior and what he has done. So the elders of the village come to him and they talk to him. They said, congratulations, how does it feel to be a father? And this is something that the warrior had not thought of. And it unsettles him. And he says, I'm not ready to be a father. I was just trying to do my duty for this baby and try to help it out. So the elders said, well, we are glad that you said this, because there's a woman here in our village that really, really needs to have something. She's tried to conceive and she cannot. She will love this baby as her own, if that is all right with you. And of course he agrees, and they take the baby and they go to the hut. They do not give it to this new mom. And instead they give it to this new grandma and grandpa. And they say, congratulations, grandma and grandpa. Here's your new grandson. And this fills them with a great joy. So great. And so this new grandpa, he goes to the biggest pot that he has, and he starts putting all of the wood around it. He's going to make a big, big fire, and he starts telling everyone to bring the loudest drums, the loudest singers, and the best dancers to come and meet the new member of their family, of their people, to come meet this new grandson, this new baby. And of course, all the people come and they take that new feast that they had just gotten and they celebrate the life that they have and the life that is existing within them and the new life that has joined them and the new happiness that is brought to them, not just with the feast, but with this new baby. But as the music dies down and the fire does the same, everyone starts to go back to their lodges to go to bed for the night. Now, the new mom, she has been so excited about this new baby. And she noticed that through all the commotion, not once does the baby wake. She thinks to herself, he is content. He must know that we are his new family and is happy to be here with us. But she is also anxious because she is really, really excited to have this thing that she has always wanted and has been pining over for quite some time. But as she is in her excitement, she cannot sleep. So she decides to be productive with her time. She decides to start working on some moccasins for this new baby. She does not have any. And as she starts working on the moccasins, she gets done with the first. And as she is pulling the string, the sinew, she hears screams. Little boys and little girls, moms and dads, grandmas and grandpas, screaming for help. This unsettles her quite a bit. So she runs into her mom and dad's room and she says, Father, wake up. Our people are in danger. They need your help. So he grabs his single ball war club and his side knife and he runs outside. And everyone's still in their lodges and the fire's died down. And he hears no such thing. So he thinks to himself, my daughter's just worried because this is something new. Oh, she must have had a bad dream. So he goes back into the house and he says, daughter, you are safe. It is okay. It was just a dream, a bad dream, but it was just a dream. She says, Father, then I was not asleep. I was awake. And he said, you must have imagined it. Please go to bed. Do not wake me again. With this, he went to bed. Of course, this new mom at first was anxious and excited, and now she was a little bit afraid. She did not know what to make out of heads or tails of this situation. But in her anxiety, she started working on that second moccasin. And as soon as she finished pulling that tether of sinew at the back end of that moccasin, she heard those same screams. This time, she did not wake her father. She went and woke her mother. She said, I believe that there is an awful spirit trying to get at this baby or our people. But either way, I need your help, Mother. You know, Father said that he did not want me to wake him again. And I need your help. And so her mom got up and she prepared the things in the way that she knows how. She started to smudge the house, cleanse it. And as she came over that baby, she heard those same screams emanating from the belly of the stomach of that baby. She looked over at her daughter. Her daughter said, what's wrong? The mom had put her hand over her daughter's mouth and said, shh. That's not a baby. That's Keaw'e, the village eater. I want you to take him. I want you to take everyone as quickly and as quietly as you can to get them out of our village and not to wake him. She agreed. And so she did this. And the keenest warriors, watching all of the people get all of their effects together and going in the direction of the winter camp. And as he's thinking of all these things, he thinks to himself, maybe I should have listened to the warriors who were with me when I got this baby. My people wouldn't be running for their lives if it wasn't for me. I have done this to my people. I've put them in danger. So he thinks to himself, the one thing that I can do is that if Keaw'e wakes up, I can fend him off maybe for enough time for my people to get away. So he sees the last bit of his people going off in the direction of the winter camp, and they're just leaving his sight. When he sees that they get out of sight, he focuses his attention on the lodge that the baby is in. And as he does, Keaw'e starts to wake. And as Keaw'e opens his eyes, he sees that this is a fine lodge that he is in. And he remembers Grandma and Grandpa. And in Keaw'e's true form, he is a shapeshifter. But in his true form that he has to eat in, he has great big arms, a big body, and a mouth to match. But he has tiny little legs, so he has to drag himself wherever he goes. So he drags himself to the new mom and dad's room, or the new grandma and grandpa's room. And he does not find them there. He starts to get angry. With his hunger growing, with his anger, he remembers the new mom. So he drags himself to the only other room. She's not there either. So he starts to grow. He reaches up with his left arm and he grabs a hold of one of the boughs that are holding up the house. He reaches over with his right arm, grabs a hold of another bough, and he starts to pull himself up and up. as he is growing bigger and bigger, he becomes so heavy that he crushes the lodge upon top of him. And in that fall to the earth, he sends earthquakes shattering through the land. And that keen warrior feels the shake of the earth. He heard the thud come from that lodge and seen it topple over. So he readied himself with his spear. Eeyah climbs from the rubble and looks around at the encampment that he's in. He notices that the fires are died down and it doesn't look like anyone is within their lodge. And as Eeyah looks around, he thinks to himself, God, I'm so hungry. He sees the keenest warrior standing at a distance. And he screams out, I'm so hungry, I can't wait. So as Eeyah starts to grow and pull himself towards the keenest warrior, he opens his mouth higher and higher, almost till it touches the sky. Eeyah starts to suck all of the things in. Eeyah has a great wind that pulls trees from the ground, homes from their foundation, birds from the sky. And that keen warrior feels the pull of that wind to Eeyah's belly. But he plants his spear in the ground and he holds himself true to the ground as Eeyah pulls himself closer and closer to that keen warrior, almost till he is about to touch the teeth of Eeyah. Does that warrior let himself go of that spear? And as he lets himself go, he pulls out a side knife and he drags it on the way down from Eeyah's chin to his belly. And Eeyah lets out a great roar. But all the people from the last village that Eeyah had ate come pouring out. And this keen warrior takes them to the winter camp and gets them set back on their feet. But when Eeyah was said to have died, like I said, he had let out that great roar, which has woke his brother in the northern mountains, who's been making his way back to the Anikidoa, or the Cherokee people, ever since. Now, Eeyah's brother is just like him. He is a shapeshifter. And I know nowadays we have stories in the media and in the news. Have you ever heard of a great wind that would tear homes from its foundation, trees from the ground and birds from the sky? Great shifts within the land with no warning. And now, our friends, or who we think they are, who say, here, take a sip of this. It'll make you feel good. Or have you ever tried this? It'll make you feel like a dream. Just understand that whatever's in that pill or needle or beer can, once it get close to you, if you allow it, just like Eeyah, it can eat you. And this is the story of Eeyah, the village eater. Be careful what you bring around your family, because if you allow it, it will consume you and everything that you have. Please be careful of what you bring around your family and yourself. Eeyah is a shapeshifter, but Eeyah is real. Takes many forms. we need to be able to see him for what he really is before it's too late. Thank you.
What a story that I wasn't ready for a scary story. Keaw'e. That was great. I love the message there. I want to thank everyone for being with us today for this past hour, and certainly I want to thank again our storyteller Keaw'e Bone for taking the time, and even though he is healing and just out of the hospital, to be here with us today, and that means a great deal to me. Very emotional to know that you're okay and you're healing, and to have you here with us today. I felt your spirit amongst us. So thank you so much for sharing those stories. And again, I want to just thank everyone. I want to honor everyone's time commitments. And we are just past the top of the hour. If you do have some questions you would like me to forward on to Keaw'e, I can certainly do that. You can email me here at the center. I'll put that email in the chat box. Happy to hear from you, and my email is also attached to the registration. I'm happy to hear from you. I'll put that in the chat box. If you do get a chance to fill out the surveys at the end here, that would be great. If not, we'll contact you via email. And this has been recorded, so it's available at our YouTube archive for the Native Center for Behavioral Health. So you can view it there, and other stories that have been told by Keaw'e and previous storytellers. So again, I want to thank you. Keaw'e, any thoughts, closing, any words to leave us with?
Just to say thank you all for being here and hearing messages that were passed on from me through word of mouth, and hopefully hearing that you all will take these messages, use them in the best way. And I appreciate you all for being here and allowing me to be in this time space with you and share this space. Thank you very much, all of you, for being here with
me. Until we meet again, stay safe, stay connected, and stay healthy. We'll see you again next month for our next storytelling event on May 11th. Thank you.